Hey, everyone. Today, we're diving into one of the shortest, but most impactful conflicts of the 20th century, the Six-Day War of 1967. This war reshaped the map of the Middle East, had a lasting impact on Israeli-Arab relations, and changed the course of history, and it all unfolded in just 6 days. Let's rewind to the 1960s, tensions in the Middle East were sky-high. Israel was a young state, having been established only 19 years earlier. In 1948, it was surrounded by Arab nations Egypt, Syria, and Jordan that were not thrilled about its existence and had already fought one war with Israel in 1948. Israel's creation in 1948 displaced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, leading to long-term refugee issues and resentment among Arab countries. By the 1960s, Arab countries were rallying under the banner of Pan-Arabism, led by Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser, and tensions with Israel were intensifying. Let's fast forward to 1967. The situation was like a powder keg. Small skirmishes and border tensions had been going on for years, but it was in May 1967 that things really started to heat up. Egypt began moving troops into the Sinai Peninsula and ordered the UN peacekeepers, who had been in place since the Suez Crisis of 1956, to leave. Then, in a bold move, Nasser blockaded the Straits of Tiran, cutting off Israeli access to the Red Sea, a key trade route for Israel. This was a huge economic blow to Israel, and the Israelis saw it as an act of war. Now, let's talk about Israel's dilemma. Surrounded by hostile neighbors, Israel's leadership knew they were outnumbered in terms of troops and equipment, but they also knew that waiting for an attack could be disastrous. So, they made a crucial decision, a preemptive strike. On June 5, 1967, the Israeli Air Force launched a surprise attack on Egypt's airfields. This operation was called Operation Focus. The goal: destroy the Arab air forces on the ground before they could even take off. Now, this first day was absolutely critical. In just a few hours, Israeli jets had wiped out almost the entire Egyptian Air Force while it was still on the ground. It was a staggering success. Israel also took out air forces in Syria and Jordan, giving them complete control of the skies. This airstrike effectively crippled the Arab coalition's ability to fight effectively, as air superiority is crucial in modern warfare. With the skies cleared, Israel could now focus on ground operations without worrying about being bombed from above. With the airspace secure, Israel turned its attention to the ground. Over the next few days, Israeli forces engaged on 3 fronts: Sinai, the West Bank, and the Golan Heights. In the Sinai Peninsula, Israeli forces pushed deep into Egyptian territory. Advancing rapidly toward the Suez Canal, Egypt's troops were in disarray after the airstrike, and by June 7th, they were forced to retreat. In the West Bank, Israel launched an offensive against Jordanian forces. The Jordanians fought hard, especially in places like Jerusalem. After 2 days of intense combat, Israel captured East Jerusalem, including the Old City and the Western Wall, a place with deep religious significance to Jews. In the Golan Heights, Israel waited until June 9th to engage Syria. The terrain here was challenging, and Syrian forces were heavily fortified, but after fierce fighting, Israeli forces broke through and captured the strategic plateau. On June 10th, the United Nations brokered a ceasefire. By this point, the Arab nations had lost a significant amount of territory. Israel had tripled its land holdings, capturing the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the Golan Heights from Syria, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem from Jordan. These territorial gains would become points of contention for years to come. Overnight, Israel had gone from a vulnerable state to a regional power, which fundamentally shifted the dynamics of the Middle East. Now, let's talk about the aftermath. The Six-Day War left around 20,000 Arabs and 800 Israelis dead, with thousands more wounded. Israel's quick and decisive victory created a sense of national pride among Israelis, but it also set the stage for decades of tension. For Arab countries, the loss was humiliating and devastating. The lands that Israel occupied had millions of Palestinians, who were now living under Israeli control. This only intensified the Palestinian struggle for self-determination. The territorial gains from the Six-Day War are still hotly debated today. In 1967, Israel annexed East Jerusalem, a decision that was controversial and not recognized internationally. The West Bank and Gaza Strip became focal points of Palestinian resistance, and the Israeli presence in these areas remains one of the core issues in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Additionally, Israel's control of the Golan Heights and Sinai Peninsula became strategic military assets, while Israel eventually returned the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt. In a peace treaty in 1979, the Golan Heights remains under Israeli control, and it's still a point of tension with Syria. So, what did the Six-Day War teach us? Well, it showed how rapidly conflicts could escalate and how a preemptive strike, if executed well, could change the balance of power. But it also left deep scars. The territorial disputes and the refugee crisis continue to affect millions of lives, influencing regional politics, international alliances, and peace talks to this day. The Six-Day War might have lasted only 6 days, but its impact has lasted for over half a century. It's a reminder of how history is shaped by a mix of bold decisions, unexpected outcomes, and ongoing challenges. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the Six-Day War. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay curious about history. It shapes the world we live in today.